I'm back with another bleach testing video, and today we're going to be testing out Redken Flash Lift 9 on this level 2 swatch so you don't have to, and we're going to see if it's really worth the hype. And if you're new here to my channel, my name is Mirella Manelli. I'm a hair educator that loves testing out hair products so you don't have to. So make sure you give this video a like, subscribe, share it with a friend, and let's get right into this video. I got an exciting new package from Redken of their rebranded Flash Lift. Now I did test Redken Flash Lift 8 in one of my prior bleach lightener videos, so if you haven't checked that out just yet, make sure you click right here. So now let's go ahead and see what's inside. Now Redken sent me some sachets of Redken Flash Lift 8, Redken Flash Lift 8 with bonder inside, and Redken Flash Lift 9 also with bonder inside. Now what's really exciting is I actually have not tested out this bleach lightener ever just yet, although I do believe it came out in 2022. So if you are a Redken Flash Lift 9 lover, please correct me down below in the comments. But what's really unique about this lightener specifically is after looking through this little pamphlet here is it looks like Redken Flash Lift 9 is marketed for those darker hair tones, which is exactly why it's going to give you up to that 9 levels of lift. And the Redken Flash Lift 8 is kind of like your go-to lightener for most blonding needs. So I'm really excited to see the power of this bleach lightener and if it's really going to push through those really dark levels. Now I haven't tested the Redken Flash Lift 8 with bonder inside nor the Flash Lift 9 with bonder inside because in my very first bleach lightener video series, I was really trying to test out bleach lighteners that didn't have bonder inside because a lot of the times I find that lighteners that do have bonder built in with them kind of alter the lifting phase. I really wanted to put it to the full test to see how much power and lightness we actually can achieve without the bonder altogether. But since Redken sent me this amazing package, I thought why not put it to the test and see how it sizes up on the Manelli scale. So let's go ahead and open this up. Redken Flash Lift 9 with bonder built inside retails for $29.46 for a 1 pound container. Now what makes this bleach lightener super unique, aside from the fact that it's going to give you up to 9 levels of lift, is that it is formulated with its bonding technology that's also going to help cut through a lot of those stubborn undertones like reds, oranges, and yellows. The other unique thing that it promises is to give you a clean and even lift on all hair types and textures. Some key features and benefits is that it's going to give you up to 9 levels of lift. Its built-in bonding power helps protect strong disulfide bonds and is formulated with glycine and citric acid to preserve the integrity of the hair. And its powerful formula is going to give you 17% faster takeoff during the first 15 minutes of processing. Now I wanted to show you what the old Flash Lift packaging looked like and what to kind of look out for. So this is the new branding. You're going to see now that the blonde idol will say Flash Lift 8, and then now you had the Flash Lift 9 to really distinguish between the two lighteners. So the next time you head into your local salon-centric distributor store and you're looking for Redken Flash Lift Blonde Idol, just know that it is now Redken Flash Lift 8. So now let's go ahead and mix this up. So immediately this packaging reminds me of the L'Oreal Blonde Studio 9 packaging. Very, very similar. The lid doesn't close all the way, but that's okay because normally, because most of the time I usually take out the bags and then put it in my own container. I usually rarely use the same exact container that the bleach lightener provides. And yay, scooper. Now, like I mentioned, I have never used this bleach lightener, so I am super excited. And I also like my bleach lightener in a bag, like I mentioned many times on my channel. Fence this in here. I'm seeing a lot of dust. A lot of dust. 911, 911. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be sizing this up on the Manelli scale, and part of that test is the plume, like how dusty is this? Now, I felt like it was already kind of like on the dusty side, but now that I've dispensed it and it's settled a little bit, let's go ahead and see. That was a lot. That was a lot of dust.
One more time.
You want me to die? Oh, wow. I think this is probably one of the more dustier bleach lighteners that I've been around.
This room feels dusty.
I felt like a genie was gonna come out of this container. Now you have a couple options on how you mix up this bleach lightener. You do have the option of 1-to-1 1 to 1.5, and 1 to 2. But to keep this test really fair, I'm going to be picking 2 different mixing ratio options. Now the 1 to 1 is good for that freehand balayage application. It's going to be more of a thicker viscosity. But like I mentioned, I've never tested this before, so it'll be really interesting to see what the 1 to 1.5 feels like, which is recommended for foil application or highlighting, and then the 1 to 2 mixing ratio, which is recommended for on scalp application. I'm also going to be using 20 volume developer for this test, but you do also have the option to use volumes 10 through 40, which is pretty insane. There's not very many bleach lighteners that recommend or allow for 40 volume to be used with their bleach lightener. So that does also make this bleach lightener a little unique. So let's go ahead and dispense this. I'm going to start out with just 20 grams. Yeah, this is like hands down one of the most dustiest bleaches I have tried. So let's go ahead and feel this. Now, so far, like just dispensing it, it is very lightweight, and what I find is that a lot of those power bleach lighteners are ones that work extraordinarily well, with the exception of one that I've tried on my channel, which was the Alter Ego. That one had 0 plume, but most of them that have really high lift and provide a lot of lift on that level 2 swatch, they tend to be kind of on the dusty side. So I do think there's got to be something with like the sodium persulfate and a lot of the ingredients that they put in it that just make it a dusty lightener. But so far this feels really, like I said, lightweight, almost kind of like a fluffy sand. You can definitely see it's very fine particles. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix up the 1 to 1.5 first, because I really am interested in the viscosity of that. And then I'll mix up the 1 to 2.5. So since I have 20 grams in here, in order to get to that 1 to 1.5, we're gonna go to a total of 50 grams. So 20 grams of powder to 30 grams of our developer. So I'm gonna use my plastic whisk. Now, one little added tip if you are mixing up your bleach lightener is to not mix it really fast or kind of whippy. There are some bleach lighteners that will ask you to mix it up that way, but most of the time bleach lighteners work best when they're homogenized together or slowly mixed, or you can just mix it with your bowl and brush. Now, so far what I'm feeling in here is kind of like a lot of thinness for a 1 to 1.5. I'm honestly kind of scared what a 1 to 2 would feel like. This is feeling kind of like almost runny, but it is thickening up. So I'm gonna go ahead and set up for my swatch, and then hopefully this is kind of richened up in the bowl. Oh, see, it's thickening up as I speak. So actually, I'm gonna go ahead and mix up the 1 to 2, and so we can kind of size these up side by side. So now for our 1 to 2. So basically 1 level scoop is 20 grams of bleach lightener. So since we got our 20 grams here, we're gonna go all the way up to 60 grams. So 20 grams of your powder and 40 grams of your developer. Now, the reason why it's really important to measure your bleach lightener, if you've seen any of my videos, the amount of bleach to or powder to developer ratio does matter significantly. It can impact the type of lift. And I would assume that because Redken is highly suggesting that you do 1 to 2 mixing ratio for on scalp, it's gonna be the best option to avoid that scalp irritation or just potentially burning your client, because all of your ammonia, all of the power in your bleach is in this actual container, and the developer is the driver to get it there. So when it comes to scalp sensitivities and skin sensitivities, it is very important that you follow manufacturer's instructions. So learn the rules before you break them. However, I am a little concerned with how thin this feels when you initially mix it up, and the 1 to 2 definitely feels a little thinner. But just like the other batch, it's starting to thicken up a little bit as I mix it. So now I'm gonna go ahead and set up for the swatches, and we're gonna apply these. Now, one thing to clarify before I apply it on these swatches is that it does allow up to 40 vol, but 40 vol is not recommended for on scalp. So if you are mixing up a 1 to 2 mixing ratio for on scalp application, do not use the 40 vol. That's just like way too much. Plus the hair is not even keratinized yet for you to have to use anything that high. 10 through 30 vol is all they recommend, and even 30 vol is kind of like on the strong side. So now let's go ahead and do the precision test. Now that this has been sitting here for literally 2 minutes. So this is the 1 to 2, and you can see like this is not moving. Like I actually don't mind it. It does feel like a breakable cloud. Does that make sense? It is definitely staying where I want it to on the brush, which is really nice. So I kind of like that. I don't mind it. I think the 1-to-1 might be kind of cool for balayage, freehand, open air hair painting. But this 1-to-1.5, which is typically like what I like. I like a thicker type of viscosity with a lot of my applications. So I actually don't mind this. Now, when it comes to the 1-to-2 mixing ratio, I actually don't really see a difference. So they're pretty spot on. And I like that. I like that even at the 1-to-2, it's more thicker. I feel like I'm gonna get better precision, especially if you're doing on scalp bleach applications. That is super important that it's not too runny of a viscosity because you don't want the overlap. I feel like the thicker the type of consistency you have, the better with the precision, and you're not gonna get that overlap. You can put it exactly where it needs to be. Now, the big question here is, does it swell? So that's what we're also gonna be testing today. I totally forgot to smell this. I mean, you know what? It smells like Redken Flash Lift. It is Flash Lift. That's exactly what it smells like. You can kind of smell a little bit of the ammonia. Initially, when I was mixing it up, I did kind of feel it. And if you are sensitive, you might be sensitive to this, but I'm kind of like used to this smell. It wasn't terrible. I feel like the dust factor though is what really got me. So definitely be a little on the cautious side when you are dispensing it. So let's go ahead and get this on the swatch. No, it feels pretty nice. It's not as creamy as I would like it to be. I do think a lot of that has to do with the developer. The developer in Redken, it is creamy and you can see the conditioners and buffers in it, but it's not the creamiest. I feel like I really love a developer to be a little bit more richer in its consistency. So this one is going on fairly nicely. Now that I'm applying this, I'm getting a smell. I can like feel it in like the back of my mouth. You can feel the ammonia. I can feel like the little like burn, if that makes any sense. Now, one of the things that I kind of like about this so far is that the saturation portion is really easy, that it actually penetrated through to the other side. Not fully, because this is a pretty thick piece of swatch, but as I'm opening this up, it, again, saturation wise, it's definitely giving me something. And what's really crazy is just in this minute or so of doing this application, I am starting to see a little bit of pigment shift. This is lifting before my eyes, which is pretty impressive. So for that, I really do love a fast but steady paced bleach lightener. So yeah, no complaints with the 1-to-1.5 mixing ratio. I really like how that feels. And like I said, I'm already kind of seeing something moving a little bit. So I'm gonna apply this 1-to-2 mixing ratio, which is pretty much what I've tested all of the bleach lighteners on my channel with. I feel like that's a standard mixing ratio that most hairstylists like to use. And based on the viscosity of this, it's really not very different than the 1-to-1.5. I can't say there's a distinguishable difference. Now I'm really intrigued to see if it makes a difference with lift on this swatch. But yeah, this feels pretty much similar. I can't even, I think if I was blindfolded, I wouldn't even be able to tell which one is which. I can't even tell really which one's which just by looking at it in the bowl. But you see how saturated it got onto the other side? Like that's pretty impressive. So for that, I really like it, especially when you're working on really dark hair and you are working with maybe thicker sections. It is nice to have a bleach lightener that penetrates all the way through with ease. So for that, I will give it a high score. It is definitely strong on the smell side. Now that I'm putting this one on a little closer to me, I can definitely smell the ammonia in this.
That smell, a kind of smelly smell. A smelly smell that smells.
But I also think that's to be expected with a strong power lifting bleach lightener that promises up to 9 levels of lift. Like I mentioned, there's most of the bleach lighteners that I've tested on my channel kind of have been like that. Which, by the way, if you haven't seen any of those, make sure you go check out that playlist. I'm gonna put that down below in the description. Now that these are applied, we're gonna go ahead and process these for 50 minutes. Now, they highly recommend that you do not use any heat with Redken Flash Lift 9, and you're just gonna do room temperature 50 minutes, and we'll be right back to see how well these do. Now it's been 50 minutes and I'm so excited to open up this foil. Now, first impression so far from the swelling There is a little bit of swelling. It's not the most swelling that I've ever experienced. I would say this is kind of like minimal swelling. And even so, what's going on inside of the bowl, I don't see a whole lot of puffy puff action going on. It looks pretty contained and it's staying exactly where I left it. So for that, I really love that. And it's really not collapsing too terribly. Now, definitely, side note, you know, never use your bleach lightener that's been sitting in a bowl for 50 minutes, but I do think it is reflective of kind of what happens inside of the foil. So kind of same thing. I just feel a little bit of a raised action kind of happening. So let's go ahead and take a peek at the 1 to 1.5 mixing ratio. Wow. So first impressions here, I love that this is kind of almost like a white base. I did see a little bit of like a palest blue type of color in the actual bleach powder, but nothing that made me go like, oh, is this going to play a trick on my eye? And I love this. I love that it's kind of like exposing this underlying pigment. This does look pretty light, although it still may play a little trick on our eye once we go ahead and wash this off, but I really like the lift that I see here. I'm really excited to see the 1 to 2 mixing ratio and just kind of see how well they kind of size up next to each other. The swelling feels exactly the same to me. I really don't see much of a difference. Literally the same. It's not terribly collapsing. It didn't swell up all crazy in the bowl. You know, I definitely love that so far. So great job on that aspect of being like a power bleach lightener with minimal swelling is super, super important. Now, this is the swatch that's really important because this is how I'm sizing it up against a lot of other bleach lighteners is with the 1 to 2, because that's what we've measured all of the bleach lighteners at, because again, this is a common mixing ratio. So let's take a peek. So similar result. I feel like they look almost the same, if not the same. I can't say there was any huge difference in power between the 1 to 1.5 to 1 to 2 mixing ratio. They look really good. I'm really excited to wash this off so I can really kind of size up the integrity now of these swatches. Now that these swatches are washed and dried, we got a pretty amazing result. And you can even see a really subtle difference between the 2 mixing ratios. The 1 to 1.5 is slightly lighter than the 1 to 2. And overall, we got a really nice, even, and clean lift. And that's something that Redken Flash Lift 9 promised, and I can definitely see that we got an even lift. But let's go ahead and size each of these swatches up to the level finder and see exactly where they fall. So I'm gonna go ahead and start off with the 1 to 1.5. Now, immediately off the bat, this looks like a solid level 8. However, there are some really subtle 9s kind of flowing through it. But overall, I'm gonna go with an 8 on this one, maybe an 8.25, but a level 8 nonetheless. It definitely got to the golden zone, which is pretty versatile for the most part, where you can neutralize, enhance the warmth. So for that, I think this got a really amazing lift. But I want to see exactly where the 1 to 2 kind of falls, because this is the swatch that I really want to size it up on the Manelli scale, just because that's how we tested all of the other bleach lighteners, and I want to be fair with this test. Now again, immediately off the bat, after looking at this is a solid level 8. I don't really see too many like 9s kind of poking through. This is a solid 8. So with those level 8, we got those golden kind of tones, but we're past that orange phase, which is great, but gold still has a little bit of orange, so we still need to neutralize. But I really like an 8, but 9 is amazing. I was really kind of hoping that we were gonna get a 9 at least with the 1 to 1.5 mixing ratio. So I'm slightly disappointed because I was super hopeful with this one, especially with the smell and how strong it was. I thought we were gonna kind of power through that. However, just kind of like looking at this though, the lift is even from the root to the tips of this swatch, which I don't really find a lot of the times when I'm looking at lift with other bleach lighteners. I do see a slight color variance at the top of the swatch that sometimes the saturation doesn't go all the way through. And that was one of the features that I really liked about this bleach lightener, is that the saturation was amazing and I was able to get that clean lift because of that. Now, overall, we got an impressive lift. Like I've already mentioned, you can see the difference between our starting point to our endpoint, going from a 2 to a solid level 8, quite impressive nonetheless, and the fact that it is even from root to tip is even better. Personally, I really like a level 8 because it is a great level to enhance the warmth, neutralize the warmth, but like I mentioned, I was really hopeful that we were going to get to a 9 because there are some bleach lighteners that I've tested on my channel that have gotten us to a level 9. So this was one of the ones I was really rooting for, but we just quite didn't get there. Overall, I was highly impressed with this bleach lightener for its clean, even lift, which is exactly what it promises. And even though we got to a level 8 and not the magic level 9, I still really liked the neutralization that we got with this. It's not the most terrible level 8 that I've ever lifted to. So for that, I think it gave us an amazing canvas. Some of the things that I really loved about this bleach was the viscosity. Now, initially when I was like mixing it up, it was kind of on the thin side, but it quickly richened up and thickened. That gave me a lot of precision, and I loved the saturation. It was really easy to move and manipulate the bleach to go all the way through to the other side of the hair. Being that this was my first time ever using Flash Lift 9, I'm actually pleasantly surprised at the results that we got, and for that, it's something that I would really like to explore a little bit more. But if you think that this is a bleach lightener that would work best on a client, because again, there's lots of variables with applying bleach lightener to a human head with the natural warmth and heat, let me know down below in the comments and maybe I'll test it again on my channel. Now that we got the overall results, let's go ahead and see where Redken Flash Lift 9 lands on the Manelli scale. So let's first start out with where Redken Flash Lift 9 scored low in, and that was in dust, odor, and price. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, the dust factor was super dusty. This was probably hands down one of the most dustiest lighteners I've ever encountered. It had a lot of plume, so if you are somebody that is a little sensitive to plume, this probably would not be a bleach lightener for you because it definitely, like I said, is super dusty. Now, the odor actually wasn't terrible, but once it was mixed up, you can definitely smell that ammoniated smell mixed in with the traditional Flash Lift fragrance that was mixed in. So for that, I scored it at a 6. Now, when it comes to price, this bleach lightener is about $1.73 per ounce, and that's not including the developer that you have to mix in. So for that reason, it did score a little low, just because it is a little higher per ounce for usage as a stylist working behind the chair. Now, when it comes to areas on where Redken Flash Lift 9 scored high in, that would be in swell, viscosity, and versatility. I was highly impressed with the swell factor of this bleach lightener. I really didn't see the bleach move at all in the bowl or even in the foil. And when I think of doing foil application or precision lightening, I want a bleach lightener that does not move. And this bleach lightener did exactly that. It applied and stayed exactly where I had it, and my foils weren't puffing up. I don't really know if that would make a huge difference on an actual client in different environments and different variables that we see behind the chair, but when it comes to doing the swatch, I actually felt like it did a phenomenal job with low swell. I also really loved the viscosity. Now, initially when I was mixing it up, like I said, it was kind of on the runny side, but it quickly thickened up and gave me really great brush control and application. The saturation was really easy to work with, and it even pushed through the lightener to the other side of the swatch, and I was working on some pretty thick swatches. And finally, the versatility is where it also scored really high, because this is a bleach lightener that you can do anything with. Everything from open air balayage to foil highlights and even root application. So this is an all-around great bleach lightener to use on any type of technique or canvas. So I'm really excited to kind of play with this a little bit more. Now, while this wasn't the highest ranking bleach lightener on my list, nor is it on my top 10, this is still a really great bleach lightener that I would like to play around with, including include in my arsenal and overall gave us some pretty solid and great results. Now, if you are a Redken Flash Lift user, I would really love to know your thoughts on this test today, and then also know what your experience is using this bleach lightener. And also, what are your thoughts on the new rebrand? Do you like the old packaging, the new packaging, or do you even think that there's a difference in the formulation of these new bleach lighteners? And if you're not a Redken Flash Lift user, did any of these results from this test surprise you? Now, if you haven't seen the rest of my ultimate bleach lightener guide just yet, what you're gonna wanna do is head on over to the playlist, because I have tested over 50 or 60 bleach lighteners to date from all of your favorite distributor stores like Salon Centric, Cosmoprof, Sally's Beauty, and even the independent brands, and it's growing every single day. So if there's a bleach lightener that I have not tested just yet on my channel, I really want to know. And if you have a suggestion, please drop it down below in the comments. Now, if you want to see where your bleach lightener ranks, you're going to want to head on over to my website, because I have a downloadable Manelli scale made just for you. It's going to score all of the bleach lighteners on a scale of 1 to 10 over 10 different categories. And the blog even shares what my top 10 favorite bleach lighteners are according to the Manelli scale. So if you want to check that out, head to my website, mirellamanelli.com, or check out the description down below. So I want to thank you so much for sticking to the very end of this video. Like always, you can follow me on my other social channels like Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, all under Mirella Manelli. You can head on over to my site, mirellamanelli.com, and sign up for my newsletter where you will get education sent right to your inbox. And if you're a hairstylist who wants to level up their skills and business, you're going to want to check out Airbnb University. It's an online subscription-based platform that's super affordable for hairstylists just like you. And all you have to do to sign up is head on over to airbnbuniversity.com. I want to thank you so much for sticking with me, and I will see you in the next video.